weirdo people, and they did some exceptionally evil things while going to church every Sunday and pretending to be really normal, which is exactly what's going on in pretty much every dictatorship on earth. It's like, we find out they were weird, but we didn't find out because they told people. We found out because other people kind of knew. Not many people knew, but a few people knew, and then eventually everyone found out, oh, they're real weird. Society does not encourage honesty about anything that's considered different from normal. If you're different from normal, then society encourages you to shut your mouth, be quiet, stay in the closet. It's always changing what that something is. It used to be that being gay was really uncool. Like, no. And I mean really uncool. When I was growing up, man, was it homophobic in Australia and America. I know a fair bit about America from reading novels by people like Stephen King. People who are good at capturing the atmosphere of a place and the language of a place. America was no different to Australia. England, most places. Actually, I don't know of a place that's not been homophobic. There are a couple apparently, but I don't know where they are. And being exceptionally homophobic, like if someone came out and said something about, let's say, I don't know, just pick any race. Any race. If someone came out and said something like, I would rather my son die in a car accident than be, let's say, Aboriginal. If someone said that as a politician, what would their chances be of becoming Prime Minister or President of the country? Well, I can tell you now, in Australia, your chances would be zero. You would have no chance after saying that. And today, if you were on the record of saying, well, I would rather my son die in a car crash than be gay, well, I would assume in Australia you've shot yourself to bits as well. In 2019, I think you're toast. You're not going to win any election with that on your record. And yet, it's weird because Brazil is a country that has a lot of gay people. I know it does have a lot of gay people. And their president, the current president, the new president of Brazil, he is on the record as having said exactly those words. I would rather my son be gay. I would rather my son die in a car accident than be gay. I mean, it would make much more sense if he had said, I'd rather my son be gay than die in a car accident. That's not what he said. He said, I would rather my son be killed in a car accident than be gay. And it didn't stop him becoming president. Which I find a little bit, I don't know. It's like, could you get away with saying that about any other group? I don't think so. I don't think you could. I don't think you'd get away with it if it was any other group. Homosexuality is becoming accepted across most of the world today, and that's happening reasonably quickly, thanks to the internet and a lot more stuff being available for consumption, unless you live in China, where they, restrict what people can watch. Censorship is big in China. North Korea, they don't have a clue what's going on. It's like dictatorship censor. It's a way of controlling people. And what they do in Singapore, caning the absolute crap out of people, well, of course, you're going to have sexual sadists in the mix there, but you're not going to know who they are. You're not going to know if it's the judge handing out the sentence, or the guy swinging the cane, or someone sitting observing, a monitor, or who it is. But you know there's going to be someone that is all very professional during the day, and then goes home and, gets off on it. It's like, it's guaranteed to be the case. But the political motive is to deter others from doing whatever that person did. Drug trafficking, okay, if you traffic drugs in Singapore, we are going to do this to you. And no exceptions. If you overstay your visa, if you're homosexual, see, there's a lot of things. There's over 30 offences that you can be caned for in Singapore. It's like, a lot of people argue, well, it's fair enough. A country gets to make its own laws, and it works. Singapore is one of the safest cities in the world. You can walk around and you're not being harassed. There's no drunks. There's no troublemakers. Well, I wonder why. I wonder why there's no troublemakers in Singapore. I mean, honestly, people are too terrified to have fun in Singapore. That's the truth. They're too terrified of their own government to do anything other than exactly what the government says they can do. So it's not a democracy. It's a population living in fear, conditioned to live in fear. And when you say that's a flawed democracy, it's like, oh, come on. They torture people. And they call it a punishment. They are disfiguring and maiming a person for life. Physically, if not mentally. And almost surely both. And that is not, in the long run, that doesn't help anyone. It does not help anybody in the long term. Torturing people, making people so depressed and so mentally messed up that they are no longer functional human beings is in nobody's interest in the long term. A few of those people who are tortured will go on to become offenders of the same kind, torturers. A few of them will. It happens. If you want an example, Ivan Milat is a classic case, a classic example of somebody who was tortured, abused, absolutely had the living daylights flogged out of him in jail as a guy aged around 20, as a young man. The prison wardens absolutely beat the living crap out of every single prisoner that went into, which prison was it? Grafton. Grafton jail was notorious. Notorious. The screws, they call them, the screws. The prison wardens were sadistic sickos. And I'm not fooled for a second by the professional language of, the Singapore authorities, government, judicial, administrator, none of them. I'm not fooled for a second. I know what kind of culture that is in Singapore. I know what kind of people are attracted to that kind of thing. And I know there are some real sickos in there who get off on it. I know that for a fact. And they are not honest people. And they're very hard to pick. But they tend to worm their way into positions of great authority and power because that's what they love. They love having power over others. That is why they do it. That's why they're so keen on it. And you couple that with being maybe a sexual sadist, maybe not. Maybe it's just power. They don't care how they have power over people. They just like the thrill of having total power over another human being. Well, Ivan Milat was on the receiving end of that as a young man in Grafton Prison after he stole a car and took it for a joyride. That's what they did to him. He wasn't learning his lessons from repeated short stints in jail and juvenile detention. So what they did then is they used to send the ones that, this one's not learning, so he's a juvenile delinquent, he's not learning, let's send him to Grafton and that'll either cure him or he's incurable. And that was their thinking. It would cure them. Flogging the crap out of them was going to somehow cure them. And when I say flogging, I don't even mean what they do. Like Singapore, that's pretty extreme. What they did in Grafton was different. They used the batons, the baton, like the baton, police baton, prison warden baton. They used that, and they would literally beat them so badly that they'd be, let's just say that every time they went to the toilet for the next week, they'd be peeing blood. There was a royal commission into that. Ivan Milat experienced that. Did it turn him into a serial killer? Nobody knows. Did it contribute? I would say self-evidently yes, because he went on to become a torturer and a serial killer. So it's in nobody's interests to be doing that kind of stuff to people. For the government, the judiciary, to be torturing people is in nobody's interests. At best, they're going to come out totally dysfunctional, welfare dependent, suicidal, completely life stolen. They were a victim of abduction by their own government, kept in a jail, an abusive jail, a horrible place, hell on earth, Satan in hell, God's hell, because let's face it, the administrators are people who tend to go to church on Sundays and all the rest. They are Christians, or they are Muslims, or they are Buddhists. Singapore, by the way, is the most religiously diverse country on earth. It's only 6 million people, it's only a little place. A third of the people there are Buddhist. The next largest section of the population are Christian. The next is Muslim. There's quite a few there who are non-believers. So you've got a very big mix of people. And I always thought, if you had a good balance of people living together with a lot of religious diversity, you'd have a really good functional democracy. But apparently not. It can still be a really dark place. Human rights violations, unfortunately, can happen anywhere. The offenders can be anybody. As for Christianity, well, I don't get people who call themselves Christians who violate human rights conventions, because let's face it, and that's going on today. Australia for a long time now has been keeping people in detention, and there's been a lot of debates about, they're not detained, they're free to walk wherever they want to walk on Nauru, all this crap, blah blah. I mean, they are in detention. It is without end. It seems to be a deterrent motivation. Seems to be. But on the other hand, I think there are some power-hungry people in the Australian political scene who do enjoy having power over people. I won't bother mentioning any names. There's one that really comes to mind. And he was the Minister for Immigration not so long ago. It can be anybody. But when it is a Christian, well, then I find it really strange, because I thought the whole point of being Christian was human rights, standing up for human rights. I now know that the word Christian means anointed. That's what it means. Anointed. So if you've had the oil on you, then the baptism, then you're a Christian. That's it. That's all it means. You've been baptized. If you've been baptized, you're Christian. If you haven't, you're not. That's it. Doesn't mean anything else. Oh, then there's the practicing part. Oh, you're a practicing Christian. Do you practice your faith? Well, okay. What does that mean? Because what is a practicing Christian? Because if you want to copy God's example in the Old Testament, then you can punish people, mercilessly punish people, wipe out towns, wipe out cities, the fire, the wrath of God poured down upon them, burn them, I don't know, there's all that stuff, brimstone and hellfire and all that, punishment from God. I'm like, oh, okay. So you could copy all that if you want to, and I guess you could argue that you're a practicing Christian. I guess you could, I don't know. But I thought my whole life, I went to school, I had a teacher who was Christian, because I went to a Christian school, and I had a teacher who was very passionate on refugees, on caring about refugees, she had refugees had a special place in her heart, and that kind of rubbed off on us, I think, because she talked about refugees a lot. She was immensely moved by the Tiananmen Square, the bravery of the guy who stood in front of the army tank. She showed us all that video on the morning it happened. She said, I want you all to watch this. And it's like, what you experience as a child pretty much makes you think, well, that's what it is. Oh, that's being a Christian. Okay, got it. And then you grow up and you see other people who call themselves Christians and they go to church and they're doing the exact opposite. They're demonizing refugees and they're punishing them, or it seems like they're punishing them. Oh no, we're not trying to punish them. We're deterring other people from breaking the law. Oh, like they do in Singapore by caning the crap out of them. Or in America now, you've got these places, refugee camps, whatever you want to call them, like they're fenced off areas, they're like pens really. And they've got so many men, because if you're a single male, then it's okay for the government to torture you. That seems to be how it is. Even if you're in a Western country, if you're not a citizen, then the government can torture you if you're a single male and not a child. Although children were among the victims. Oh, but everyone got too upset, so then we had to I separate the children and the women, but we can still torture the men. No one cares about the men, because they're just men. And men it's okay you can't torture boys, because that's like, everyone kind of woke up to that. The priest taking the boy into the dark room and punishing him and doing all kinds of things to him, and then swearing him to secrecy about some of the things he'd done. And it's all your fault because you were naughty, you broke the rules, so you put all this on yourself. So don't you complain. Just go shut your mouth and don't tell anyone, or you'll be in a lot of trouble. And you should feel ashamed. It's like, there's all that's happening, and what they're doing to people in Singapore is exactly the same, except they're a bit older. But mentally they might be still a boy. Plenty of men are still boys in their head. Mentally they are still boys. This guy they thrashed the living daylights out of. He's a former DJ. He was someone who liked to move people. He liked to help people have fun. He liked to have fun, and he liked other people to have fun, and so that's what he did. He was a DJ. And nightclubs, fake IDs, drugs, it's the scene that he was part of. It was his scene, that was his thing. Why did he go to Singapore? Why Singapore? Why would you go there? Well, he was a boy. Boys don't always think far ahead. They don't always think very smart about what they do and the decisions they make. 71971. Well, I didn't pull over for that reason. I didn't look at it, but it is 71971. It's kind of weird, actually. Yiming Yuan, a victim of torture in Singapore, and they can call it what they want. It is torture. They can justify it however they want. It is torture. He is someone that's been taken into the den of predators, in my view. Predators who like to torture. And if he wasn't in the den of such extraordinarily dangerous and cruel people, I would go and I'd try and rescue him. Obviously I can't. There's nothing I can do. But I think people everywhere have an obligation to say, you know what you did to this guy is so horrifying, absolutely horrifying, that he has definitely suffered enough, more than enough, and I think you are obligated now to free him. Singapore, if you want to have a relationship with the West, with the civilized world, then you should free this guy. And I dare say there are quite a few other people who also should be freed, because you have tortured them and you have violated their basic human rights as human beings. And it's not punishment when you do that, it's torture. And torture is way worse than what they've done. What you've done to them is way worse than the crime you've condemned them for. Way worse. So unless you're willing to bend over and take it yourself, you might want to free this man. Because he couldn't run away from the Category 5 cane that you used on him. You tied him to a trestle and you flogged him. And the poor guy, his backside is scarred for life. His mind, God knows what it did to his mind. It's just horrifying. I think he's a very brave guy. I think the way he spoke prior to his caning, I thought, you've got balls, man. You've got balls. You've got way more balls than the cowards that tortured you. Lorenzo, I reckon he's going to reflect you. He's going to be a storm that overcomes the odds and survives torture. You know what's torture for a hurricane or for a storm that's trying to become a hurricane? It's wind shear and it's dry air. That's what tries to destroy a storm that's just trying to form. But you know what? These people that inflict torture, they don't know about hardship. They're good at inflicting hardship, but as a rule, Ivan Milat is obviously an exception. But a lot of people, I had to stop talking because I had to put a torch in my mouth. A lot of people who enjoy inflicting torture on others, they don't know much about it, about being on the receiving end. They like dishing it out, but they're not so keen on taking it. Because if you take it, if you're a tiger boy who takes punishment, if you're a masochist, you understand pain. And from that tends to come empathy. And so you're not inclined, as a rule, to want to do it to others, unless it's in a consensual way where the other person is like-minded Oh, you like me? Oh, you like some stripes? Oh, I can give you some stripes, if that's what you want. But you're going to be looking out for them. That's kinky, that's masochist. And honest. Jake and Nathan, they like honesty. They respond to honesty. They always have with me. They were both born on Friday because they're both kinky. Masochistic. They are true Christians, and so is their mirror boy. He's a true Christian. He likes to get his stripes. What he doesn't like is this sicko stuff, dishonest sicko, nasty, cruel stuff that goes on. It's not kinky, it's just horrible. It's just, there's no words for it. Category 5. Torture. It's torture to be in a Category 5 hurricane, in a little flimsy house, which I would equate to being strapped naked to a trestle. So you've got no protection, and you've got no way to flee. You are trapped. Trapped like prey in the clutches of a big, powerful spider that enjoys torturing. That is what happened to Yiming Yuan, because he made some really poor decisions, because he's a boy. And boys are like that. Boys can be really dumb. And unfortunately, having a good heart and being a good DJ and having this love of fun and this love of moving people through music, the torturers don't care about any of that. They're just looking for an excuse to torture. So Jake and Nathan are boys who value honesty. The name Jacob equals 31. Friday equals 63. The next eruption of Steamboat Geyser is number 63. It's also number 31. $3:37 a.m. equals 2:35. I saw that and I went, oh, hey, maybe Steamboat Geyser's going to go off after 235 hours. So let's run the calculation. So I did. That's what I put in, 235 hours and 17 minutes. And when I saw this, 2:37, I went, ooh, that is 3:37 in Minnesota. That's where Jake's from. He's from Minnesota. Friday. 63 is Friday. Jacob is 31. Lad, 17. Jake was born on the 17th. I'm like, I thought it might have been 199 days. Well, it wasn't, because it's now up to about, I guess, around 212 hours. The value of my full name. I could have gone with that as a guess. There's infinite things I could have gone with as a guess. I didn't go with a guess. Well, it's not exactly a guess, because I saw this and I went, oh, 3:37. That's the number I've been thinking about, because Jake and Nathan have got a mirror boy. And that's his number, 337. I mean, his number is 149. His number is 199. His number is 337. He's got a few numbers. 117 is his number. 17. 117, 149, 161 connects to him too. 161, 199, and 337. They all connect to him. 199 is a strong connection to him. Twin mirror boy. 199. 337 is perhaps the strongest connection to him. The mirror boy. 337. So the time 337 in Minnesota, where Jake is from, he is Jake's mirror boy. So it does sort of make sense. Peter Gabriel. He has a song, Red Rain. He also has a song called Steam. He also has a song called Sledgehammer. But let's not go there. Peter Gabriel, Torture. Oh, well, I guess Misery by Stephen King. She does use a sledgehammer, doesn't she? She's a psychopath. She's the kind of person you don't want to get kidnapped by. But then again, at least you've got a chance of escaping from a psychopath. Maybe, if you get lucky. But if you've been kidnapped by a government of a country, if the predator, the spider, is a government, you're screwed. Unless, because they're not going to care how much you suffer. They obviously don't care how much you suffer if they tied you to a trestle and flogged you. So hard that you're never going to have the same backside that you had for the first 29 years of your life. Well, they obviously don't give a crap about you at all. Even though they're going to put on a few airs and graces and pretenses for the sake of international acceptance. That's all it's for. They don't actually care, obviously. So unless the international community, people abroad, put a lot of pressure on them, well, that person is screwed. Absolutely screwed. Trapped in the den of predators. Sadists. Real sadists. And there's no hope for them. They're gone. They're gone like the little mouse that's been taken by the camel spider down into the den of the predator. Red Rain is also a novel by R.L. Stein, and it has identical twins, Daniel and Samuel. Jake was murdered by a guy named Daniel. A guy who had a Bible in his house. A guy who had a prayer book. He had written bits and pieces, he had notes, he had torn page out here and page there. He was a Christian, but so was Jake. But two very different people, obviously. Jake and his killer were both Christians, because Christian means anointed. It doesn't reflect behaviour. It just means you've had some oil put on you as a baby, maybe. It doesn't say much about behaviour either, because there's so much in the Bible that's so different. Gabrielle. Peter Gabriel. He did a lot of stuff on human rights. He was an activist. Stood against torture. As an entertainer, he's British. No Light, No Light. Florence and the Machine. No Light reminded me of the twins, Daniel and Samuel. In the novel Red Rain by R.L. Stein. Samuel and Daniel, the killer of Jacob. Both are biblical names. Daniel, Jacob, Nathan is a biblical name. Jayton is taking Satan and Josh and joining them together. No, it's not. It's taking my name and Jake's name and joining our names together. Oh, sorry. But what about the H? Well, my name's actually Nathan, originally. Nathan. Not Nathan. It's Nathan. It means gift from God, God has given. The snake boy. Seven one is the value of Samuel. It's also the value of Steve. Steve, the twin of Daniel, or Samuel, the twin of Daniel. It's getting hot in here. So take off all your clothes. Let's do some sexual healing in the dark. Christian. Christian, what does it mean to be Christian? Anointed. It means there's potential. But most, they don't actually know what it means to be Christian. And it just becomes this thing. It's like a political thing. It's politics. It's got nothing to do with spirituality, for most. Almost all. Especially 2019. Religion's a dying thing. Most people don't quite know what to think of God and all that stuff. I mean, you can actually talk about Satan now without people coming and burning you. It wasn't long ago you used to get burned if you talked about Satan. They'd come and kill you. These days they only torture you if they have you in their clutches, in a position where you're unable to defend yourself. It still happens. 2019, 24 strokes of the Category 5 cane. Everyone else is just going on, you know, doing their day-to-day stuff, unaware that this poor guy is being tortured in Singapore. Brutally, viciously, caned. Category 5 caning. Red rain is coming down all over me. Red rain. Samuel and Daniel. Daniel's the evil twin. Daniel's Jake's killer in real life. He's the evil twin in Red Rain. Birthday. Boy Daniel equals 87 too. So you could say like birthday boy Daniel. 87. Gabrielle. The name Gabrielle has a value of 71. 71 is the value of Samuel. Samuel's the twin with the psychic gift in Red Rain. He's the nicer boy. Personality-wise, he's quite nice. He's pleasant. He thinks his brother is weird. His brother is weird. Strange, actually, is the word he uses. Strange. Daniel is strange. Daniel's power hungry. He likes having power over people. He wants to rule the school. 71971. Tomorrow is the 9th of August, 2019. Tomorrow is Friday, the 9th of August, 2019. Friday, the 9th of August, 2019. Steamboat Geezer, a sign for Gabrielle, the angel that is not an angel but a spider, an evil, sadistic, cruel, vicious, powerful spider that's gonna pounce and kill as many people as it can. That's what Gabrielle is. Red rain is coming down all over me, and the red, red sea. Daniel and Samuel, victims of Hurricane Ernesto, in the novel Red Rain by R.L. Stein. Red rain equals 69. September 6th is the 6th of the 9th. The birthday of the Mirror Boy. Red rain equals 69. I wrote red rain equals 69. 2 hours later, I go to the library. I'm using my laptop at the library, and I see a book next to me, level with my head, to the left of me. Red and black, catches my eye. It's Red Rain. That's how I found it. It was Halloween 2015. It was Saturday. Saturday, 31st of October 2015. So I picked it up, I looked at it. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, 12-year-old identical twins, Daniel and Samuel. I read it, I borrowed it, I took it home, I read it. Hurricane Ernesto. Ernesto was on the same name list as Florence. Remember Hurricane Florence? It was around the time as just before Hurricane Florence that I watched No Light, No Light, the music video, the song. When I first heard that song, it reminded me of Daniel and Samuel. No light in your bright blue eyes. I never knew daylight could be so violent. It's in the lyrics. Then I watched the music video and I was really blown away because it has 12-year-old boys, choir boys, in a church. Choir boys, age 12. They look like they're 12. The last eruption was at 7:20. The angel equals 7:20. Sadist equals 7:20. So I counted the hours. 2:35, 17, Friday the 17th, Jake's birthday. He's mirror boy, turning 17 on Friday, September 6th. And it landed on 2:37, tomorrow. 2:37 Mountain Daylight Time, Friday, 9th of August 2019, is tomorrow. Gabrielle equals 71, a reflection of 17. Samuel, 17, the boy with the psychic gift of pyrokinesis. The fire equals 71. That's how Nathan died. Firestorm, Black Saturday. The boy with the psychic gift of pyrokinesis. Ernesto was the name of the hurricane in Red Rain. Ernesto, the storm, Ernesto, sucked in all the smoke from the wildfires. It was red. It was a red hurricane. The one before Florence, last year. Hurricane Florence. Florence and the Machine. No light in your bright blue eyes. I never knew daylight could be so violent. 71971. The twins of 71. Samuel, 71. Gabrielle, 71. I didn't pull up here because of that. It just happens to be where I live. Speaking of which, if I just flick my headlights up, maybe you can see, maybe you can't. Maybe I drive over here. And then you can see. 338. 2338. 233 is Jacob Wetterling's name. It's the value of his name. And his life path number is 8. It's 2 plus 3 plus 3 is 8. Today is the 8th of the 8th. And what have we got here? 71971. 7 and 1 is 8. Nathan's life path number is 5. We've got 5 degrees. Ming, M-I-N-G, DJ Ming. Ming equals 43. 6-9, Red Rain. I want to show you something else. I've been sitting at a bad angle, so I've got a little bit of pins and needles. That's not too bad. So that's our property number. It used to be this one back in the day. It's the value of Snake. It's also the value of Nathan. Nathan. If you speak into a letterbox, you sound really weird. I didn't know there was writing on the back of our letterbox, but there is. And the 8 fell off. So on this side, it's just 233, the value of Jake's name. If you look up Minnesota on timeanddate.com, Minnesota in the USA, you'll see there's a place called Spring Valley. It's also the name of my property. Spring Valley. And another weird thing, Friday, Jake was born on Friday, but he died on Sunday. Born on Friday, died on Sunday. There's the moon. And there's a little bit of cloud around tonight. And when you've got the moon and clouds, it looks weird. If I can focus. If my camera can focus. Not easy. It's an old camera. It's done a lot of work, this camera. There we go. The moon with clouds whizzing by, because tonight is cold, it's windy. You can see how fast those clouds are moving past the moon tonight. Whooshing along. Whooshing like a hurricane. Do people really care about stuff like people dying in disasters, people being tortured, death and destruction and carnage and mayhem? Do people care? Do people really care? If you really care, then you'd have to care about DJ Ming. Because there are actually worse things than dying. Being imprisoned after being tortured is especially bad. Because you've been tortured to the point where you can't even go to the toilet. You can't even bend because it's going to rip open the wounds in your backside that are going to be absolutely awful after 24 strokes of the category 5 cane. So Singapore officials, government representatives, judicial administrators, judges, they can all say whatever the hell they want. And they don't fool me for a second. Using violence to deter other people, I always thought, well, that's what the Romans used to do. They used to crucify people, scourge them and crucify them, which is pretty close to what you do in Singapore. The caning that you inflict, no, it's not scourging. It's nowhere near as bad as scourging, and yet it's awfully close. You can't use a toilet for probably a month or more after that caning. You will have trouble going to the toilet. You can't lie on your back. You can't lie on your back. They haven't even given you a bed. You've got a bamboo mat. I don't know about that for sure. I read that. If you've got a bed, let's assume he's got a bed, you can't lie on your back. The only piece of furniture in the room is a bamboo mat. Well, maybe that's the only piece of furniture, and he's got a bed. I assume he's got a bed. A pretty basic bed, but a bed. He can't lie on his back. You can't even have anything on your ass because it's going to stick to the wounds, which are going to keep being torn every time you move the wrong way. You can't you can't bend to use the toilet, so you've got to try and use the toilet in a way that's going to be very difficult. And then comes the wiping part, is going to be really challenging as well. So it's not just the 12 minutes of extreme torture, it's what comes afterwards that is going to really mess you up in the head, as well as being thoroughly messed up in the body. Of course, it's going to have a terrible detrimental impact, and that's why I'm saying people everywhere who are decent, people who identify with being more like on Team Aslan than on Team Jardis, even the Goblin, who has decided that the cruelty of this bitch has gone too far, well, you know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and we live in a universe of reflection. Gabrielle is not Gabriel. Peter Gabriel stood for human rights. He has the name of an angel. He did the work of an angel. He may have retired from most of his work by now, but he probably hasn't. Peter Gabriel probably has not stopped campaigning on human rights. He probably still is. Gabrielle is not Gabriel. Gabrielle is a spider a sadistic, cruel, vicious killer, like her half-brother, Michael. Samuel, he didn't want to kill, but his brother twisted his arm, and so he did. And he was very good at killing because he had the power to do it. He did it to please his evil brother. And so Samuel, likable, nice, friendly, easygoing Samuel, became a dangerous, terrible killer in Red Rain. Because he couldn't resist his brother. His brother was a good manipulator. Samuel, 71. Tomorrow's the 9th. Gabrielle, 71. I'll leave it there, guys, because I mean, I don't know what else I can say. I think I've said enough. Enough to, if you're more inclined to be on Team Aslan than Team Jardis, then you are going to join me in telling Singapore that enough is enough, and you need to free this guy because what you did to him is wrong, and he needs to go home, back to London. And there's no ifs, and there's only one but in this conversation, and that's the but of DJ Ming, which is no longer the same but he had for the first 29 years of his life, because you guys decided to inflict the Category 5 cane upon him. Exactly to what extent, I don't know, because there's no information. It's like you've abducted him into a dark place, and I'm not comfortable with that, and I want him released, and I want him sent back. I want him back in London. I want him back with his parents. Because what you did to him is just pure evil. Pure evil. And it's far worse than anything he's done. So you're obligated. Until then,